Well, I think to be honest, I think that it's part of the background noise. I mean, nowadays a tweet like that. I mean, to be honest, there've been so many. I think we're in the hundreds now. We tend to ignore them. I mean, you know, as I sometimes say, some of us have got proper jobs. We've actually got to get on with our work rather than spending our entire life tweeting at each other. I mean, look, I accept, of course, that there's a very lively debate about the character of news, about what you should believe and what you shouldn't believe. I think our numbers show that millions of people, not just people from America, but around the world, are turning to trusted sources of news. The New York Times is one, but it's not the only one. And I think it's a time when, you know, discerning readers understand that there's a kind of battle between you know, the belief that it's important to get actual facts and know what's really going on, and also that freedom of the media does not make journalists enemies of the people. It's an important part of a democracy, and those who, you know, like the president, in a sense, want to have a shouting match about everything.
But presumably, Mark, you don't think the president doesn't have a proper job?
I think that you know, and to be fair, I think, like everyone else in this country, the president is entirely entitled to say exactly what he wants about the New York Times, the Washington Post, and everything else. I passionately believe that we too should be held to account, and if people don't like what we do, they are absolutely free to criticize us. I do think sometimes that the president, particularly using language like enemy of the people, I think was rightly criticized to his face by the publisher of the New York Times for whipping up what could be dangerous hatred against journalists and what they do. So I think there's a difference between perfectly reasonable criticism and something which is really dangerous.
Speaking of trust, I just got to ask you about this. I mean, you have apologized and severed ties with a service that published what was clearly an anti-Semitic cartoon last month in your international edition. What does this say about, you know, your editorial checks and balances? And I wonder if you have to defend that kind of decision-making now to publishers.
I want to be very clear. I mean, as you know, I'm the chief executive, not the publisher of the paper, but I'm very clear from talking both to the publisher and to the editor of the New York Times. We all accept this was a really serious mistake. It was a decision taken by one individual designing a page for the international edition of the newspaper. It should never have been published. It did indeed reveal some shortcomings in decision-making processes, which we're moving very quickly to put right. We've apologized profusely, and I can say again, we are very, very sorry to everyone who was offended by this cartoon. It should never have been published. The one thing I would say, and this is not to defend the cartoon, it should never have been published, is you really, I think, I would ask you to accept that this was a one-off mistake by one individual. It should not be seen as part of a broader pattern. In the immediate aftermath of the cartoon, not only did we apologize unreservedly, but we also published a stinging piece by our own columnist, Bret Stephens, criticizing the newspaper of Atlanta, and also an editorial which put this in the context of anti-Semitism. I think no one should be in any doubt. We think this was a very serious mistake, and we're very sorry it happened.